This video is by Straight Goods News, SGNews.ca.
Workers Action Centre is an organisation based in Toronto, but we have provincial scope. We work with many workers who are not part of the trade union movement, who are working through temp agencies, who are contract workers, who are in low-waged, precarious types of employment. We operate a hotline where workers can phone in around their questions at work, but then they also come to the centre to fight for their wages. Let's say someone hasn't been paid overtime or hasn't been paid minimum wage. We work with them to challenge their employer to get the money, but also to file claims. We do a lot of education in the community. We reach about 2,000 workers across the Greater Toronto area. Providing workers' rights training, information, support. We also provide a lot of labour information across the province at settlement agencies, at places where people are looking for a job, libraries, everywhere that somebody might be going to try and connect with resources. We try and make sure people are getting access to information potentially in their first language, but also information that recognizes that if a lot of people speak up, they'll lose their jobs. And so then what do you do in that situation, right? If you tell your employer, oh, I'm looking at my paycheck and you haven't paid me overtime, well, you're going to be out of a job, right? So what do you do in that situation? How do you fight back? How do you try to fight for yourselves and then also, build a relationship with the communities that you're from and help them fight back too. So part of what we do is also through people coming to our organization with a problem at work, we try to work with that person and then do that political education, say, it's not just you that has not been paid minimum wage. Did you know that, there's thousands of workers who are filing claims at the Ministry of Labour, thousands of workers who are really struggling to survive. Is that right? Do you think that that's right? Do you think that that's fair, what's happened to you in your job? Do you want to do something about it? And then we try to get them involved in the centre. People become members. They start to get involved in campaign planning, in organising, doing outreach to their communities, and start to get politically involved.
How does that relate to the subject of the CUPE conference at which you're speaking this week, which is about bargaining and the attacks on public sector workers who tend to be unionized?
Well, I think there's so many different connections. I think one connection for sure is that to be successful in bargaining, you need to have political strength and you need to have a base that will fight for what you want at the bargaining table. As we've seen, the kind of erosion of rights and concessions demanded at the bargaining table require a different strategy, require taking, different types of risks in building support. It means reaching out to community. It means building a broad base of support. It means political alliances to try to win improvements and not just, react against the cutbacks and the concessions being asked for or demanded by employers. And so I think that there are strategies that community organizations, organizations like ours use to build that power, build that strength in communities where we don't have a union base. And I think it's sharing those strategies with CUPE. It's also looking at the fact that many of the struggles that the Workers' Action Centre is part of, like fighting for an increased minimum wage, fighting for a stronger floor of protection, fighting for better immigration policies, stronger social assistance, are very much connected to the issues that CUPE members are dealing with in their work in the community, but also their own families, their own neighborhoods. People are struggling with that too, and so it's about building those community union alliances on shared and joint struggles.
How does the austerity agenda affect the unorganized workers who you work with through the Workers' Action Centre?
Well, I think it's had a huge impact. I think the social safety net was already eroded quite a bit before the recession hit. I think many of our members who may have previously gotten access a little bit to employment insurance now are being completely pushed onto social assistance, which is a really devastating, brutal welfare system where people are being asked to survive on $600 a month. And so what that does to people in terms of the indignity, the degradation of poverty is brutal, right? And so I also think the austerity agenda has had a huge impact in terms of the quality of work out there. People are afraid, they're fearful of speaking up if there is a violation of rights on their jobs, because they know that another job is very difficult to get. And we know that the Ministry of Labour does not have the resources that it needs in Ontario to enforce basic labour protections. So again, here is a connection with public service, right? Those public service jobs have been gutted over the last 20 years in terms of enforcement of rights. The impact is, you know, people not getting those rights. And so we need to be rebuilding all of the kinds of regulation of the labour market by having more workers work in those jobs, but by also, you know, ensuring that those rights are expanded and protected for people in precarious employment.